This is the Oecs Newslink, a roundup of major news happening across the Oecs today. In the headlines, in a landmark effort to deepen regional integration and empower citizens, Dominica plays host to 2 dynamic sessions at the end of July. Local youth action for sustainable development goals is front and center on International Youth Day 2025. Oecs countries unite in the fight against multidimensional poverty with the help of the Caribbean Development Bank. Good day, viewers, and welcome to the Oecs Newslink. I am Jacques Hinkson Compton. Let's dive into this week's news in the region. Dominica recently hosts a public sector town hall meeting and a youth engagement session at the Public Service Union in Roseau. Regional unity, mobility, and opportunity were the shared themes of the 2 sessions. These sessions were used to illustrate regional matters such as unpacking the Oecs free movement of persons regime and engaging with public sector professionals and the youth alike. The Public Sector Town Hall brought together senior public sector officials, statutory bodies, and civil society agencies to dialogue on free movement in the region. At the youth engagement session later that same day, young persons from Dominica gathered to share their hopes, ideas, and personal stories about life in a borderless Oecs region. Let us take a look at this video of the youth engagement session.
I encourage you to be attentive to all your questions. Of course,
I'm sure you've heard a lot about the movement of people in the Oecs. Our icebreakers sort of focused on that as well.
One of the things that I haven't really heard spoken about is in terms of voting rights and land acquisition rights, which may be part of the general rights or the contingent rights, but I know in certain territories, at least as far as CARICOM is concerned, there have been cases that have gone to court, like in Barbados with the Jamaican lawyers, who were denied voting even though they were holders of the CARICOM still certificates and had been resident for 3 years. So do we have any specific protocols like that? Maybe that falls under equal treatment. But
would you be able to register to become a citizen? Do you have permission to do that?
fundamental difference with the economic union and some questions that edging on political union is that as a citizen of Dominica State, Dominica, going to Senator and others, you have all of those benefits. So the treaty technically gives you the sort of rights that you typically expect that maybe a permanent resident would enjoy, and maybe even more than that, by virtue of the treaty that has been signed.
I believe that the private sector can help us by strengthening their institutions. Because if we have private sectors or sectors that more like organized, they're suffering from like institutional resistance. Like yes, provisions have been made by the treaties, but they, as the private sector, are slow to adopt those provisions that have been made for us.
Speaking of youth, August 12, 2025 was International Youth Day. The day was used to celebrate the creativity, energy, and potential of young people in the Oecs region. The Oecs Commission wants to take the time to highlight its own youth initiatives. These include the Oecs Youth Empowerment Strategy, which gives young persons opportunities to engage in national dialogue to shape the future they will inherit, and the recently held Oecs Boxing Championship. The latter, now in its 2nd year of operation, brings together youth, junior, and elite athletes from across the Eastern Caribbean to demonstrate their skill, determination, and sportsmanship in the sport of boxing. The Oecs Commission, in partnership with the Caribbean Development Bank, or CDB, marked the conclusion of the updated Enhanced Country Poverty Assessment, or ECPA, project by hosting a 2-day high-level forum in St. Lucia. The project focused on collecting data on poverty and living conditions in the region. This was to create policy to effectively address not just poverty, but socio-economic disparities. The attendees of the 2-day event were presented with data that included detailed poverty and inequality profiles at national and regional levels. The following video has more details on the Enhanced Country Poverty Assessment.
In the fight against poverty, understanding is the first step. The OECS-led CDB-funded Enhanced Country Poverty Assessment Project, or ECPA, prioritizes poverty reduction in the context of sustainable development. The ECPA project strives to accelerate poverty reduction and promote economic stability by obtaining and aligning data with policy direction in the region. It has been at work from 2023 to 2025, collecting data, analyzing households as well as institutions, and building a clear picture of localized poverty in the OECS. This detailed information will allow policymakers to create programs and interventions to address poverty.
The Enhanced Country Poverty Assessment Project was implemented over the last 2 years. And what we sought to do was to use some of the surveys of living conditions that had been done in the OECS member states to measure poverty, vulnerability, inequality, and those types of conditions between and within different subpopulations. One of the most, I would say, impactful ways in which, or immediate ways that you can think of that ECPA will have an impact is, for example, I discussed the poverty line, which is an amount of money that allows a person to be able to satisfy their very basic needs. All right, that's an amount of money. Now, if you translate that into a cash transfer program for the vulnerable, persons who have disabilities or special difficulties attaining some of their basic needs, all right? They may be destitute, they may have mental challenges, all of these type of problems. You must have a way of deciding what is the amount of money that the government or an institution supporting them should provide those persons to ensure that they do not fall into, a situation where they are extremely hungry.
Participating countries in the poverty assessment included all 9 English-speaking OECS member states. To view the full video, please visit the OECS YouTube channel. And this brings us to the end of this week's edition of the OECS Newslink. For more on these stories, visit our newsroom at www.oecs.int. Stay connected and follow us on social media and our website to keep up with the latest updates. I'm your host, Jacques Kingston Compton. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.